Hey guys, just decided to film a little bit of my drive right now and wanted to talk about some stuff. So this video is going to be a little bit different. I just thought that the drive onto my new job would be a little bit more interesting than just, staring at my face. So there's that. But yeah, no, today's the, as I'm recording, it is the 18th of September 2024, and on the big box it's been said that Trump survived another attempt, even though I don't even know how it was an attempt if the guy didn't even shoot. I don't know. I guess I was watching some videos. He had an SKS and they saw him trying to shoot, but I don't know. The way I see it, that one right there is kind of more of like the attempt. I don't even know if the attempt was even made. I think the guy was just scouting out. But either way, it doesn't matter to me. It's like it's crazy. It's crazy that if someone makes enemies in the White House, makes enemies in politics in this country, that you are just as likely to die and get killed like in any other country, So it just goes to show, it's like the U.S. is not that much different. It's just the U.S. is just a little bit better at hiding. And not even, actually, there's just plenty of evidence to show that the U.S. just does this stuff out in the open, and it's good at gaslighting people. I mean, that's exactly every time the U.S. gets into a conflict, it's all a war of gaslighting, a war of propaganda. But I digress. But yeah, just another one of the things that happened recently was the whole Tenet media. I wanted to talk about that for the longest time, but just never got around to it. I went on a vacation. I switched jobs, and I was just having too good of a time to think about anything, even 9/11, because even for me, 9/11 has always been, I don't want to say overshadowed, but 9/11, it just didn't seem as important to me. Not to mention too, I think when it happened, I think I might have been 7 or 8. So it wasn't, for me, it was just another crazy spectacle on the TV. When it happened, it was just something that happened. I'm like almost every crazy thing that's happened in my life, it's always when I was young or something like that. And it was just, because my family comes from a large Mexican family on my mom's side, 12 brothers and sisters. So my grandparents were already very, 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 very old by the time I was like 6. So it's like by the time I turned 6 on my birthday, grandpa passes away. Rest in peace. And fast forward 12 years later, 18 years old, my grandmother dies. So rest in peace. So, but yeah, as I was gonna get back to it, 9/11, yeah, just want to shout out my grandparents right there. But 9/11 has always been just kind of another spectacle, not just because I was young, but it's because my pops was born on September 11th, but 1962. So every time there was 9/11, it wasn't like a somber day of remembrance. It's like, what the fuck does that even mean to me? It's like it's like in New York. It's like the fact that it's in New York, it might as well have been another country, because if you think about it, it's like, I've never been to New York. It seems alien to me. The people seem alien to me. It's like we see it on TV. It's glamorized in TV, but I've never been to New York. I used to have an inkling to want to go to New York and visit it and experience the culture, but No, it's been always kind of more of one of those places that you see it on TV all the time. You've been to one big city, you've been to them all, kind of thing. I mean, tell me what New York has that Frisco doesn't have. San Francisco, or Mexico City. It's LA. It's a big city. It's gonna be a lot of people walking around. It just depends on what your flavor. It's like I honestly, me myself, I have a love-hate relationship with San Francisco. So it's like I love going because it's beautiful. There's a lot to see. It's part of California, Northern California, but I hate it. It's filled with just fucking the most degenerate people on the planet. You got everything from fucking gangbangers, just to low-level thugs, homeless people, pickpockets, politicians, mostly Democrats too. Not to say that Republicans are any better, but I mean, if you fill a city with just fucking Democrats, you get exactly what that is. It's like, I hate falling into that same trope. It's like, oh, Democrat-run cities. It's like, Democrat-run cities create their own hellscape, their own version of hell. Republican ones, it's more like, you just get, emptiness. It's like there's nothing there. You get cheap houses, but you also get the federal minimum wage. It's you know what I'm saying? You get low test scores. You get terrible health care. You get high welfare recipients. You get high benefits recipients. You get higher levels of obesity. It's like, so you pick your poison, man. If you find nothing wrong with the Republican hellscape, that's fine on you, but it's because you're part of the issue. You are literally gonna die at like 60, so, but Democrat-run hellscapes, it's just like, it's one of those things, man. I don't know, at least there's something there. At least there's something to do. And this but it just, that's the issue with it. Every year for a while I would go to the pro-life rallies there, and they were good because you got with people comrades in the movement, the pro-life movement. It's whether they were atheists or Christians. I mean, it was majority Christian, mainly Catholic, but you can get with all kinds of people there, talk, if that was your thing. But back in the day, it started off maybe like 50 weirdos. There was always this clown, like an actual clown in a tutu dress. It was a dude with a beard, clown makeup, going around handing condoms to like nuns and little children. It was fucking weird. It was the most, like, at that time, that was the most degeneracy I've seen. And I was like, okay, at least this is here in Frisco. Flash forward maybe like 15 years, it's happening everywhere. Oh my god, of course there'd have to be a fucking bike, man. There's never a bike here. But yeah, and now if you go to these things, yeah, dude, it's crazy, man. I haven't been to one in about 5 years, but from what my pops was telling me, that they're mobs now. It's like full on mobs. It's to the point where I told him, because he's a big Trump guy, and I tell him, man, you gotta stop with that nonsense, man. You gotta stop with that nonsense. But he's at least he's at least a big guy, and he's got balls wearing that hat, or maybe, I don't know, he's a boomer, so he doesn't know what he's doing. And sometimes it's just like, I told him, hey man, if you're gonna go there, man, you gotta worry about your your OPSEC, your operational security. He's like, you can't be wearing that hat. And he's just, whatever. But then he was telling me how, like, he was with my mom and the group, and next thing you know, he's just hanging out, like, taking video of the rally. But then the pro-choicers come out of nowhere, start swarming, and next thing you know, he's surrounded, and they start, like, arguing with him and talking with him. He was telling me that there were cops near, so I was just like, that's the only reason nothing happened. They probably didn't want that smoke at that time, so they were just leaving you alone. So, and it's one of those things, man. I'm just like, anything could have happened, but what was I getting on? But yeah, 9/11. That's what I was getting back. Yeah, that was my dad. He's born on 9/11, so that always overshadowed the towers falling. And maybe it was for a good reason, man. It's because I can't imagine myself still being, to this day, being like sad. It's terrible that this happened, but I mean, that's exactly what they want you to think. That's exactly what they were doing. It was all a manipulation tactic. It was all a false flag. I remember the first moment I started getting like quote unquote red pilled onto this was I would work with my pops all the time. I think I might have brought this story up in a previous video, but I'd be working with my pops, and we'd do recycling, and one of the things we'd always have to do was drive to the Bay Area to drop off the load. We'd take a trailer, and we'd be going through, I forget what part, I don't know if it was like a little bit past Tracy, Livermore area. There was this, there's just open fields for a bit as you get closer to the rolling hills of California, Northern California. And but yeah, they were on this like random, like, I don't know if it was like a water, like, well, concrete thingy that just pops up out of the ground. You see them every now and then, just these random blocks and cylinders, made out of concrete. And on it, for the longest time, it had Google WTC7, and I was like, what is that? And it always stuck in my head until one day I just got the inkling. I was just like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna Google WTC7, and sure enough, as you all know, everybody knows now what WTC7 is, but it literally just brings up the idea that World Trade Center 7. At this point, I had only thought, I was just, because like I told you, I just didn't care it that much. I didn't think too much of it. I was just I was like a little kid. I wasn't really politically on any of this stuff. Anybody that was politically, I feel like if you were into politics that young, it was just like, that's kind of like some autism stuff. I mean, but like, yeah, like I think when World Trade Center, the two towers fell, like I said, I was like 7 or 8. And so as the years went by, I just got a little bit older, but it's like, yeah, like it's, I can't imagine myself at 12 or 13 in those days, which was probably like, early 2000s. I think, yeah, I turned 18 2010, so I was like, anything before that, I just like, it made no sense. I thought it was weird when like my friends would get political in school. I was just like, that's fucking weird, bro. It's like, why are you guys talking about Ron Paul? At the time, I was just like, why are you talking about Ron Paul? Now, looking back, I can probably see why he appeals to people, but I just, at the time, I was like, bro, we should be talking about video games or talking about girls. You guys are talking about politics and fucking, talking about video games actually too was actually part of the problem, but yeah, no, it's like, you guys should be talking about like girls and stuff like that, but either way, but yeah, no, but yeah, like I was saying, when learning about World Trade Center 7 and how it just completely, like, out of nowhere, it just fell, and while the two towers, were the main spectacle, were the main focus on everybody's mind, it just blew my mind. And that was like one of the first few moments that I remember like getting like put onto anything alternative that wasn't just out of the mainstream media. Plus, yeah, you always, at the time too, you were hearing about the Patriot Act and how the biggest thing I would be hearing on talk radio, like with all the OGs, like the Savage Nation and Rush Limbaugh and boomers like that. It's like, it was always like, oh yeah, this is a good thing. It's like, we need this, because it's like, if you don't have anything to hide, you don't have anything to fear. It's like, we need this, the Patriot Act. It's like, again, unless something signed in by a fucking Republican. But it was just like, at the same time, I was just like, why? I guess like I fell for it too. I just started getting blue pilled, because I was just like, I'm a fucking kid, dude. I don't hang out with fucking politics nerds. I got plenty of politics from my dad, and it was just like, yeah, garble, like, take all of his talking points and make them my own, sure. But at the same time, I was just kind of like, I didn't really care, man. I had other things to worry about, especially, you know, in those younger years. It's like that's the last thing I want to worry about is politics. But yeah, sure enough, it's just, I don't know, man. 9/11, it's been 23 years. And to tell you the truth, I don't remember too much of the old world to have an opinion on it. I do remember just, the little bit of 90s that I did have enjoyed, that I did experience. It was fun. I mean, yeah, just, you know, certain movies, you know, hanging out with kids. But, you know, at the same time, you know, it's just like I don't remember too much of the traveling, because we used to go to Mexico. And, but, you know, I think my memories of like actual traveling happened after 9/11. So it's like technically my own experience with traveling has always been the whole TSA screening you, giving you cavity searches or whatever, you know, whatever nonsense it is they do. But I don't know. Yeah, it's just it seems like it's been a natural progression ever since then. They just keep ratcheting up the insanity for us to partake in, and for basically that the enough insanity that we're able to let them get away with. Because after that, what was the next one? I think it was just a string of flus and strings of pandemics that didn't really, you know, they didn't really stick, I think. And then after that, COVID, that was the next big one. So yeah, I mean, we already know how that one went down. Everybody cowered. Everybody tucked their tail in. And even the loudest, most vocal people, man, I'm telling you. Yeah, the previous video I said was talking about this too, but it's just like, yeah, that's how you know there won't be an actual right-wing revolution, man. It's like these people can't even take up arms to open up the cities that get closed down by government elites. And you saw the injustices, you know, you saw how almost every other corporation was still able to function properly, function clearly, and make tons of money in the process. But meanwhile, the smaller individuals, smaller shops, you know, were closed down. And so it's just like, you know, I'm really not for this whole capitalist system. But I mean, even in in this system that we're forced to live in, I would rather partake, you know, in capitalism with the smaller individuals as opposed to the conglomerate, you know, corporate systems out there that they don't need my money. They have plenty of money. And but yeah, no, so it's just, that's just one of the things, man. It's just it's a clown world, man, we're living in. It's a shit show. And you know, unfortunately, it's until actually something happens, nothing's gonna change. I mean, it will change. Scratch that. It will change. It's just going to change for the worse. But you're not going to notice it, because until you look back in the next 10 years, you'll be like, oh, man, this one was actually... I prefer this reality to the one that I'm in right now. As long as the sodas keep flowing, as long as the Netflix keeps streaming, as long as the cars keep driving, you won't have anything. It'll just be another soft tyranny, a soft corporate tyranny, where people accept their servitude, sell their surplus labor for wages, you know, as long as they get something in return, and keeping the people thinking that that's how it should have been, and that's how it's always been, and this is actually good. And you know, people are just consumers. But another thing I wanted to talk on too is just identity, especially when talking about capitalism. You know, it's like always been something that bothers me, is that the idea of identity, that we are not really what we claim to identify as, meaning that there will be someone out there that will see us as something else. You know, it's just like me myself, I like to identify with anarchism, but I don't really feel like an anarchist in most senses. You know, I like the ideas and the values of anarchism, but I'm not partaking in anarchism as of, you know, right now. It's like I'm partaking in the system, the capitalist system, But but what's it called? Against my will, though. I'm not partaking in this system willingly. If you gave me another option, I'd probably. It's like Megadeth. It's like that. It's like, it's like if there was another way, I'd be the first in line, but it better work this time. Yeah, if there's a new way, I'd be the first in line. Yeah, that's basically what. Yeah, I was just really listening to that song the other day, and it resonates. It's like, it's true. It's like I'm all for it, but I'm just like I'm not for the whole like the just falling for cults. Like I said, I'm okay with cults. I'm okay with cults existing. I just want to be the cult leader. I want to be the head of the cult. That's exactly what it means. It's like nothing wrong with being the cult leader. And as long as you're a fair cult, because there's cults out there where, people, they still exist to this day. There are certain cults, that partake in all this mumbo jumbo, they partake in all kinds of like, manipulation tactics, telling you to stay away from your family and all that. And that's all bad and, all bad and dandy. It's all bad and stuff like that, but there's cults out there that partake on the whole, like, we need true believers, it's like, that's what the Amish are for, it's like, that's what the Amish are. That's technically a cult, if I've ever seen one. I mean, the way that people portray cults, it's always in a negative sense, but I mean, what's in a cult that's not in a religion, to get to the point is just that, what the fuck was I talking about? Stream of consciousness is just, that's the thing I hate about these types of conversations I have. It's just my head goes everywhere. But there's nothing wrong with cults, but either way, I was talking about anarchism. I like to identify as an anarchist, but it's just I'm partaking in capitalism against my will. The same thing with capitalists, though, man. A lot of these capitalists identify as capitalists, but they're not really capitalists. Most of these people are just wage slaves. They're all wage cucks, wagies. They're in the wage cage 9,000. And these are the same people you'll see on Facebook, on Reddit, on YouTube, talking about how they're capitalists. And it's like, oh, thank God for the capitalist system, am I right? But it's just, these people have nothing to their name. These are the same people talking about how, oh my God, the elites, the WF, the globo homo, they're destroying our economy, and Biden economics and inflation. It's just like, well, pick a lane, you idiot. Pick a lane. I can't stand it when like these people. I saw a recent video. I forgot which channel, but it explained it perfectly, and how the new right partakes in this postmodern conservatism, and it made perfect sense, because it's like, it's like the conservative movement at this point is basically anything that's just, it's against the left. It's like the biggest type of reactionaries out there, and that's why you can get to the point where the left believes all these things. The left thinks the right believes that it's against the government, but at the same time it's the military's good and the cops are good, even though cops and military are the ones that are like really treading on the citizens, the feds and everything. But it's just like, we need the federal government. We just need better leadership. Oh my God, better leadership. But it's like, how are you going to get that? You can't get that out of a corrupt system. It's like, you can't get good leadership where the culture in that system, that institution, just incentivizes the individual to partake, to go along and get along. You got to go along to get along in these systems, and it's very lucrative. That's why the politicians that go into office, they go in, oh yeah, with this most hopeful attitude, but then all they do is just become another one of the fucking gangsters in there, and nothing changes, and people are just like dumbstruck. It's like, oh my God, it's like, these politicians, I don't trust them, but I'm gonna keep voting for them. It's this amnesia that people have. So, it's postmodern conservatism. That's why, you can believe that. It's like, These dudes, yeah, will praise capitalism in one breath, and then the next breath they'll be like, "Oh my God, this system, it's rigged against us." It's like that's why their voting is good. It's voting works because oh yeah, and then but then when their guy wins, voting works, and it was a fair election, and that's why when it doesn't work and their guy loses, oh my God, the system's rigged. We live in literally two different states of minds simultaneously. So yeah, no, I'm just over it. But yeah, no, you'll never have a right-wing revolution. I don't even want to begin to imagine what kind of cringe that would be either, man. It's like, the right thinks that it would just come in just like, freedom fight for all the people and fight for all of the downtrodden and bring this trad Christian America back and put God back in their schools and things will be better. But that's never gonna happen, man. That's never gonna happen. It's all a utopian vision from these dudes. But even if they wanted a good vision, if they had a good vision, they would never be able to be achieved. Technology is too far superior of influence. There's no way. The only way you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't live in the world and curse the world at the same time. You know what I'm saying? It's like the most conservative Christian out there is nothing compared to the average Amish, Mennonite, those types of people is nothing. They are worlds apart compared to each other. As to where you put them together close to each other, and it's like, yeah, I can see the real actual traditional person here. The only traditional Christian here is literally the Amish person. The other person just looks like a liberal. It's like, because they're both the same, it just makes no sense. You can't live in the world and be of Christ or whatever. You can't be a godly person in the world. We try to, at least the Christians do, but even with priests, it's like priests have the upper hand, but even then it's like they're still living in the world. They have internet access, they have TVs, they have all of the luxuries of this world. So but the only thing that's good in their regard is that their whole job, their whole day-to-day functions, their whole day-to-day routine is basically, it's like they're doing mass like all day. I don't believe in the church, like I said. It's just like I have to like keep disclaiming it, but even then it's like that's the only leg up you can get if you're living in the world that's not an Amish collective. You know what I'm saying? So because after that the priest has so much time dedicated to doing this and that in the church and doing masses all day and doing all these rituals and sacraments. It's like you go home and sure, yeah, he probably has some time to himself, but it's like you're probably just gonna go to sleep. You're gonna do your prayers and then you're gonna go back to sleep. So it's like it's a job for them too. So that's probably the only other, if you're just gonna, but saying you're a Christian and then you're going and living in the world and all you're doing is just living for yourself and for your, basically for yourself. I don't see it, man. I don't see it at all. It just makes no sense that you can say you're a Christian, but everything you do is a secular activity. That you drink, you gamble, you watch TV, you do all kinds of things. You fornicate with your spouse with no single intention of procreation. It's like it's like even the moms, the wine moms, the Christian wine moms are out there slamming that that plan B. So it's just like, no, it's like I'm tired and sick of having to cater to the Christian nationalists that think that this is a Christian nation. Bitch, it never was a Christian nation. And even when it was, it's just like, what did you get? It's like you had the same issues. It's just it's a glamorized past. all of it has been glamorized. It's like, how far do you want to make this country great again? How far would you have to go? You would have to literally go back to the 1700s in order to make this country great again. But nobody's going to do that. Toilets are too nice. Indoor plumbing is too nice. Indoor electricity is too nice. And cars are too nice for people. You're not going to go back to horse and buggy. You're not going to go back to horseback riding, regardless of how equestrian your tastes are. So I don't buy it, man. I don't buy it one bit. But yeah, no, just identity, man. I had a whole thing planned out too. It's just most people are just normies. Most people are just literally just living day by day. They're just the human meat sacks that they are. And most people, they don't know what they're talking about. They don't know what they believe. And it's just it's just kind of insulting. It's just kind of like, that's frustrating, man. That's why I don't like to think about it too much. But when I do think about it, I get these spurts of energy and creativity, man. I've just been like wanting to build like a shed. I've been wanting to do woodworking. I just realized, man, it's just like, man, dude, I've just been wanting to get into woodworking this whole time. Maybe, you know, it's like I thought maybe that'd be kind of nice, you know. It's just like, because I've always had a knack, you know. When I got into woodworking in high school, man, I thought this was awesome. This is great. It's like, people get paid to do this. This is great. Made my own little coat hanger. Made my own little note dispenser with a note roll dispenser. I was like, man, this is awesome. This is easy. And it's like, man, to think I could have been going into that, but you know, I fell into the trap, man. Fell into the trap. You know, I don't know. I fell into the trap of just thinking that I need to get a real job. You know, even though I was working with my dad the whole time. You know, that made me money, but getting the real job, I think, was the most important thing, though. Because had I just, you know, let's say if had I just stayed working with my dad, you know, he would have helped me out. You know, I was obviously helping him out, but what was it called? It's just, there was no real experience besides just dealing with people that I would have had. You know, it's just like I wouldn't have seen how bad things were once you start working for yourself as opposed to working for the man. I don't know, man. It just, you know, it's like, it's a good thing, you know, I got woken up when I did, but there's a lot of people that to this, you know, there are people to this day probably that I was thinking about this the other day, that probably die without experiencing, you know, having a pizza. I don't know. It's like, I don't know, just something that right there, it's just things that I'm just like, you know, if there's people out there that have never had a pizza, you know, have to die at the age of 70, you know, how many other things have people died not experiencing, you know, or not understanding? I don't know, but it is what it is, you know.